can just go.
Okay.
So we have a mutual friend, Cameron, and I was driving past his house the other day with my truck. I've got my logo on my truck, and he says, "What do you have to do with rugby?" And he says, "Well," and I told him, "I'm launching a new website called rugbynation.com." And he says, "There's a guy you have to talk to. He's one of my best friends. His name is Ryan Burke, and he just lost a few players tragically, and you just have to talk to him. He's done so much for so many kids, and I've been wanting to do this interview with you for a long time now, and also in the process of launching the website that I should be launching it here soon. But on purpose, I decided not to do too much research on you because I wanted to learn from you about you at the same time as the viewers at rugbynation.com will get to. And just to let you know a little bit about rugbynation.com, I want, through rugbynation.com, I want people to feel what I feel, what the heart of rugby is. And I want that to come through in every interview and through everything that happens on Rugby Nation. And because I'm so passionate about it myself,
Yeah.
I love making new friends like you that are passionate about it as well. And I would love to hear your story, and I would love to just, just tell me and the viewers about yourself, what makes you so passionate about it, your history, and then what you're doing for these kids in California. I'd love to hear the story.
How do you want to start?
Start from the beginning, I guess. Um, what made you interested in rugby, and did you play before, and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. Well, I played high school football, and then I went to Chico State in California to play football, and then they canceled the program. Um, it was my junior year, and I remember watching the rugby players like run by, and I remember the football attitude at least was screw those guys and whatever they got we got more and all that kind of stuff and a macho attitude and not a whole lot of sportsmanship. And once they canceled the program, I was like, what am I gonna do? I want to play physical contact sport, and I was like, well, there's 2 years I can play rugby for 2 years. So I went and joined the team, and they were just so welcoming. I remember two of my future roommates I lived with at the rugby house, and very good friends to date. One of them helps coach now. They were just so welcoming, and I didn't see me play. There wasn't whether I was going to be good or bad, and they were just so welcoming, and just kept inspiring me to come back. And so I stuck it out and played touch in the beginning, and I played some summer sevens just to kind of learn the sport before I went to play that first season. And loved the sportsmanship. Didn't really get it in sevens. Didn't understand it. Hadn't become a part of me as it did my first season. And didn't really college rugby was a whole other deal besides summer sevens with a men's club, with the singing the songs and hanging out with each other a lot more after the game. One-on-one teams, one-on-one versus a big group of people. And I remember my first season, we had 2 weeks of double days, and it was during an El Nino in the 90s, and it was just pouring down rain, and just the commitment. I felt like I was going through boot camp. And so like anybody that would go through something like boot camp it would be something they would never forget. And it's the desire to do the best you can and improve on so many levels, and the pride that you have that you were one of the guys showing up all the time and putting in the work that's needed to be successful. And I played and started, and my coach from seven said that I'd be a B-side player. So he actually is one of the guys who helped start the Oakland Warthogs. So I thanked him for telling me that, because it pushed me and drove me harder to work harder for it. And then just playing and being with that team, and it just the sportsmanship and the camaraderie. And I used to get in an awful lot of fights in high school, and even in college, you got in some fights. And on the rugby field, it was just a different respect that I had for people. And I even had people swing a punch at me after a play or whatever, and just say, "Come on, man, we're playing rugby. Like that's not this game." And it made me really wonder why I ever wasted my time with football. Like really, like I just going from being a blocker to getting to do everything was just that was exciting to be able to tackle and run the ball, and it was a blast. And it's I don't know how to. I don't think anybody could ever explain how someone gets as passionate about rugby as it sounds like you are and that I am. It's something that you experience, and it's something that no one could ever understand if they don't have it. Like many things, And but I just really felt that I ended up playing for some men's clubs afterwards, and the last team I played for, I really they were. I felt like a bunch of hippies. I was like, gosh, why are we all so nice and loving and talking about like being positive and not picking on each other and not talking to the ref. Just it
Right.
was more so that than I'd ever experienced before. But that's what worked was being positive with each other and really being truly um, just confident that no matter what happens, it doesn't matter. It's our next play we got to make, and you got to adapt. And so, having played with that team and having to change the way I was about uh, my sportsmanship and being a teammate, it really it taught me so much about what works and how much better rugby is when you play that way, and how much everything is a lot better when you're that way about things. And so it's I've taken a lot of that and brought that to the Warthogs. And when I was first invited to come help out with them, I said, hey, one thing, I don't want to be an assistant coach. I want to be one of the head coaches, or I want to be one of the guys that people have to listen to. And then I also want to make sure that the program improves the kid's character, because the sport to me is just so similar to life, and that you have a plan. You got to go out, you call the plan. This is what I'm going to do. Something happens, it's a challenge, or you make a mistake, and you don't have time to waste worrying about it. You got to take the next step into moving forward. I wish I did that more in my own life, but on the rugby field, that's what I did. And
What's
it's
funny is
something.
we've got pretty similar stories about football and transitioning
Yeah,
to rugby, because I I remember hearing about rugby or all that kind of stuff. But you know, the reason why I got so passionate about rugby, and I didn't really learn about rugby until after I'd already graduated from college. So I
oh,
joined an actual club team that was in a neighboring college after I'd already graduated from college, just because I'm one of those kind of guys that finish the high school season of football and then you wonder what's next. And you can't really go out and buy pads or
yeah,
rent pads, join a club for football. And then what I realized in rugby is that in football, sometimes you don't even see, because I was a lineman, and
yeah,
and sometimes you don't even see what happened in the play. You're so completely disconnected. You just do your one job all the time,
yeah,
and that's it. And then the play's over, and hey, what happened? And then whatever. But but in rugby, you play offense, you play defense, you kick the ball, you pass the ball, you catch the ball. I mean, it is all encompassing, and not only that, it's like a band of brothers, military brothers. I've never been in the military, but it just kind of feels like that kind of camaraderie, because you're in a full-on brawl, I think, but it's a gentlemanly brawl for an hour and a half, um, and you've got each other's back, and you're bleeding on the field, and you love it,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. The last game I played in was the best game I ever played in, and we lost the game by a little bit more, maybe a try. And I remember we were playing a team that was supposed to destroy us in a playoff game, and we'd watched them destroy a team before, the day before. And I remember thinking like, oh, I don't know if our team has what it takes in the sense of like really being focused to come out here and do what we need to do today. And I remember I was like, don't talk to me. I'm going to get in the zone. And I went out there and I hit a ruck as hard with everything I had, and then I got up and I saw my teammate hit a ruck with everything in it. And it was weird because like an energy went over the field. Like we're all on the same page right now. And this is exciting because we can win this because everybody's stepped up. And, we made a couple mistakes that they took, advantage of, but it was by far, like I couldn't believe that a game that I lost was my most favorite game I ever played in, and just the way the whole team was, and it was definitely something special. And I'd take that over any of the wins I had, with how everybody was that day and connected in that way, and got to share that special moment. And I never had that in any other sport where I felt like I remember when I played football, I didn't, and especially in college, I didn't even know some of the guys' names on the defense because we never hung out, and it was just that just like you said, and so it wasn't as inviting. It's just a whole different deal. And I think that, if people are going to have opportunities in football, like for my kids, I've had kids that are like, hey, I got to miss a Saturday game because there's a special camp I'm going to go to. And I've even helped, sponsor them to go to the camp, but it's only if it's something I think that is going to give them an opportunity to get a scholarship, you
Yep.
know. But otherwise, it's like being here is going to make you a better football player, So
Yeah.
stick around. I try to tell some of my kids that are playing football right now that, hey, why don't you go to a summer rugby camp? We've got some people to help sponsor for it, and they're like, well, I said, when you talk to your coaches, tell them you're going to come back better at rugby and better at football because that's what it does. And I mean, I remember being a little afraid in football to hit someone with everything I had, and then I remember doing it in rugby and going, oh my God, it doesn't hurt. It's
Exactly.
like, and then going, I wish I could go back to football and put some pads on,
Right.
because just, but it's I don't know. I think the sport's second to none, and I don't know if it's because I'm biased or I don't know what the case is, but I absolutely love the sport. I love what it is at the professional levels, and international, and the respect that it shows for each team, and that a fight might break out, but it doesn't last more than a couple seconds, and then they're just right back at it. And I don't know, man. It's just such a special sport to me, and it's something that I feel so honored to be able to have participated in, that I want to give it to everybody I can,
Yep.
and show them. And it's been great to see the sport growing, and it won't ever grow fast enough for us, right? Like, I mean, I want it to be as us to be as good as we can, but I really would love to see the country, and especially the youth programs and the high schools, like really teach a lot more than just the rugby aspect and being a good team, but everything else about what rugby can teach you. And that's even honoring the referees, and a lot more than some coaches choose to do, and even some of our coaches sometimes lose their patience with it. But I think there's an awful lot to teach out of this sport, and that kids will eventually, when they're in their careers, or in their future with their families, they'll have something that will remind them, a foundation, to be much better men and even women, for women's rugby.
Yep. Absolutely right. And tell me a little bit more about what position you hold right now and how many kids you're actually coaching, and touch a little bit on you know and the reason. One of the reasons why we're touching on this is when I told our mutual friend Cameron that how I started becoming even more passionate about the sport of rugby, is I told him that the last 2 years I've been going to the Rugby Sevens Las Vegas tournament. I've been going for the last couple of years, and that's where the idea spawned for, this thing has really taken off in the country, and I recognize that really my biggest passion in life is rugby, so I might as well do something about it. And when he told me that you lost some of your kids on the road trip back home from that tournament, I mean, I was just so sad, and it's
Yeah.
really a sad story. And on purpose, I decided not to research it so that I could hear it from you, and I'd love to hear from you, the story about that and what you're doing now, and anything you'd
Yeah.
like to share.
Well, I'll give you a little short story about the history of the program, a little bit that got into like where these kids came from, and whoops, fireworks. um, we started after our first 4 years. We averaged a win per season, and our fifth season we came out and we only lost one game and ended up winning the Northern California Silver Division varsity championships, which was the best of 32 teams from Fresno to Sacramento. And the two of the kids that were in the car, I think they were 18 or 19. They were uh, them, and then their sister and a friend. went to Rugby Sevens, Las Vegas Sevens, and then had a great time. And then they came back with a current player that's friends with them, and they're all like family some way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just driving back, and they had been up all night walking the strip and hanging out. And they on the drive back, one of our former players was driving. They actually had switched who was going to drive because one of the people was tired and they were running late and whatnot, about 5 hours late from when they were supposed to leave and get back home. Their parents had allowed them to rent a car and go all by themselves for their first time, and they just kind of like pushed their parents and said, "Hey, when are you going to let me be an adult and let me go do this? We want to go have fun and whatnot." And the parents, had all of each kid had agreed, now's the time. Let's let them go do what they want to do. And um, they, when they were driving back, the driver passed out at the wheel, and the sole survivor saw it occur, like saw him nod off. And by that time, the car had rolled a few times and threw a few of the passengers out, and uh, there were four of them passed away, and there was one survivor who had to get a back surgery. He was a current player this season. They had gone to the sevens, and we went and visited him in the hospital. And we brought a guy, Chris O'Brien, who coaches the USA Eagles. He's one of the backs coaches. He's also an Oakland firefighter, and they've sponsored our program the last 3 years. And he contacted me, and we got Blaine Scully to come out and meet with Hunter, the kid in the hospital, and just try to see how he was doing. And that's when I talked to him and said, "Hey, it's all going to come out, so be straight with me. Were you guys drinking or any of that kind of stuff?" And he was like, "No, coach, we're just up really late, eating a lot. They love to eat." So he was like, "We're eating a lot," and that was about it. And they, he just passed out at the wheel. And there was some talk about that he had seen, like, he was awake and couldn't move because of his back, and saw his friends, pass away. And it was pretty hard. We had some people that he'd even driven by the accident, not knowing it was them, but knew them. um, and it was, it was tragic. It was tragic to lose, two kids. One of the kids was just like, he was a quiet guy, but worked hard, was very committed, would show up to every community service we had. Um, was very ideal, and didn't talk a lot, just showed by action. And had a lot of respect from a lot of people because he would talk to them, not necessarily at the game or practice or whatnot, but when they hung out. And he was, saying things to them about, working hard and all those things. And they both come from great families, and their brother, some had brothers that played for us or had played for us. And so I learned an awful lot about the Polynesian culture and how they go through the funeral and whatnot. And it's something I never had experienced before, but it's very loving and very family oriented. And they spent an awful lot of time over those 2 weeks supporting each other. And, it was crazy. I just said, where I'm from, someone passes away, you bury them, and unless they're real close, you don't think about them a whole lot afterwards. And
Right.
um, but they passed away, and it affected the team for sure, and it affected kids in ways that I didn't know, but tried to bring it, discuss it at practice and say, "Hey, this is a chance for us, this to bond us and bring us closer together." And if you guys want to dedicate the season to the MOAs, then you're welcome to do that. But realize that in doing that, if you choose to do that, that if you choose not to come to practice and you choose not to work hard, you're dishonoring the commitment that you make to them. And I was hoping that it would bring the team together. And there's always, especially with inner city kids, there's a different way to motivate and kind of learn it a little bit. You learn something about it every year, and
Right.
it was definitely, it came together towards the end of the season. But I think that I, based on the way that they acted and the way you're trying to read them, I think that it affected them more than they ever kind of showed. And towards the end of the season, they started to pull it together. But it definitely, um, was a challenge. And we all went to the funeral. We all, the thing that was really neat to me is we actually got to bury the kids with actually shoveling the dirt onto, and I had never done that before, and I felt so honored. The One of the mothers, as soon as they started burying, said, "Where's the rugby team?" Which really made clear to me how important our program was to this family and to this kid. And it was really neat because I didn't know that that's what this program meant for some people. And uh, they were so dedicated, to the program and they said, when we were, seeing them shortly after the accident, we talked to the parents. And I was wondering how they were doing and asking. They said, we have no regrets in letting them go because they were doing what they loved most in life, which was rugby and watching rugby. And like for kids that are just getting out of high school to have that kind of passion for the sport, having only played it in high school, and there's a lot of it in their culture, but it was great that they shared what we share, and to know that the parents weren't regretful that they were letting their kids grow up and do what they love. They said, I would have been more hurt if it was something else where I'd held them from doing what they love, and so that was neat. And just going here on out, it was just a surprise, like you know, coming from Oakland, I've always not always, but there's been a little fear in the back of my mind of losing a player to gang violence or shooting or any of that kind of stuff, and we've been blessed to not have that happen. Um, but man, losing any kid, that you're close with or that you got the opportunity to coach, and they were great kids when they were with us. I mean, one of the other kids, George, he was so hilarious, one of the funniest guys, put a smile on everybody's face, and to lose two really, really neat kids like that were so close to us. I had seen one of them about 3 weeks earlier. He came by practice, not call, didn't we didn't call him or anything. He just showed up to see how the team was doing, and it was so exciting that when alumni does that, when they show up just to see what's going on, and then you talk to them about, hey, what's your plan? What are you doing? How's school going? And all that kind of stuff. And it was really neat, and I felt blessed that I got to see him shortly before the accident, have a really great conversation with him, and tell him how much I appreciated him showing up to practice and whatnot. So um, it was definitely, I mean, it was tough when we
Yeah.
were there,
Well, tell me what's the full name of your team, and you're in Oakland, California, right?
Yeah, it's the Oakland Warthogs.
Oakland
So
Warthogs.
we go by the Oakland Warthogs Youth Rugby Program, and we have we tend to run from eighth grade to 12th grade because there is no younger rugby in the area. So if an eighth grader is like big enough, or we're not worried about injury because of their size or whatnot, then we'll play them. I've had a seventh grader play for us. He's a sophomore this season. We just put him at wing. It was back when we weren't playing, big strong teams, and that kid, he's played 5 seasons. He's right now going. He got invited to tryouts for high school All-Americans. He'll be the first Oakland Warthog to have done that. Uh, and so we run about 30 to 40 kids a season, and then last season we had 60 kids show up. We went to one school, and that school really bought into it. Kind of depleted after a couple of kids didn't really like it, maybe 6 or 7 kids out of the 60. But we had to do 2 teams. It was a great problem to have, but it's definitely coordination issues.
Right.
Um, but I mean, like realistically, having championships and winning, to me, I don't care if we win or lose. I care that we want to win and we work to win.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'd rather, I don't mind losing to a better team, but I don't want to lose when we should have won, those kinds of things. But I'd rather these kids get so much more of the program and what we're teaching about going to school, and that academics comes first, and all the requirements that we have for them to participate in games, it's all first. And if we've even canceled the next year after our championship year, we told the kids, you have 2 more weeks to turn in your grades. If you don't turn in your grades, we're going to shut the season down. You can't defend your championship. We ended up having half the kids turn in their grades. They were half, like some were not complete grades and whatnot. So we shut it down. And that year, the team that won the championships, we had shut out during the season. And so I showed the kids were like, we could have won it. And they were so pissed off at me at first because they didn't know how to take responsibility about it. There
Yeah.
were a few kids. There were a few kids that ended up, realizing what had occurred. The captain had called me, who was one of the kids who turned in half of his grades, and called me and talked to me on the phone and said, "Hey, I want to apologize to you that you had to cancel season. I want to apologize to you for not being the captain you wanted me to be and for not pushing the rest of the players to do what we needed to do. I mean, this kid blew me away. Kid was never like that. He's got brothers that are kind of going down the wrong road all the time or not taking the best of paths. And I was really pushing that he stepped out of their shadow and was the captain this year. And it didn't come around the way I had envisioned and wanted, but at the end of the season, you could see the difference and the relationship we have now after, him and his two older brothers have graduated. Even my relationship with those guys is good, and they have come back to thank me for what they got out of the program. And they're not doing perfect, but they're doing better than they would have. I can see it, and they've even told me that. And it's neat to be able to change lives in that way. And the grades thing is really just some of these kids are such excellent athletes, but they don't have the grades. And if you don't, I tell them if you don't have the grades, it doesn't matter how good an athlete you are because no one's going to pay for you to go to their school and fail out.
Can you pinpoint one of the kids that the most sticks out in your mind that rugby has changed his or her life, and could just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the best thing that came out of our rugby program to me was a kid, Felipe Lopez, who uh, was the smallest kid on the field at all times. His senior year, he was a rucking machine and he was always protecting the ball. And even the biggest guy on the team said, I want to tell you right now, like in front of everybody, like you were handling business for, Felipe. And he said, even I wasn't doing it, but like,
Right.
and it was great to see this little guy get the respect for playing as such a big player. His first season, no big deal. He played hooker for us. His second season, he missed the entire season because of grades. He wasn't bringing, and I told him, don't come to practice. Go home and get your homework done. He missed the entire second season. Third season, he came back, was the most improved student on the team. He was the original winner of the Warthog Award, which was like a manager's award or something that embellishes everything that we're trying to have come out of this program for each kid. He ended up he was going to quit his third season because he had to work to provide income for his family. Um, and he said, I got to quit. And I said, work at my house. You'll work in my yard. I'll teach you how to work. And he came over his first day. I worked with him to show him what I wanted. Told him to show you what I want. Next time I'm going to leave you alone. And the kid wouldn't stand still. Borrow a broom from him, he was gone, which was bothersome because I was like, wanting to hand him the broom right back, But he was such an awesome kid. Showed up on time, communicated, did everything that most kids in Oakland absolutely have no idea of or struggle with so hard, and he learned so quickly, and he just did what he was told. Um, he ended up I ended up hammering him on the second day about what I expected and said, hey, I understand that this is tough, but you got to get this done and you got to plan to work this many hours and whatnot. And then I left him alone and he came to my door before he went home. And he said, I really screwed up today. I'm sorry about it. I'm going to come back on Thursday and finish up for free. You don't have to pay me. And I just said, don't worry about that. I just want you to learn from this. Just make sure it doesn't happen again. Like, just handle it. The kid had then from then on out, my yard was immaculate. And I ended up getting him a job with someone said, hey, do you have a warthog who wants a job? I go, I got the perfect guy. He got a job. 2 weeks later, I get a call about how awesome that kid is. The guy got him more jobs with other people that do the boating business. Um, he was someone that I told him, when I'm giving your name out, you're representing me, you're representing the Warthogs, and representing yourself, and you need to make sure that you come through. Like I've taught you, The kid won't has never let me down. I mean, I've had conversations with him about what would you do if I called you and told you to. What do you think I would do if I called you and told you to do something you didn't do it? And he goes, that wouldn't happen. And it's so true. I mean, he's phenomenal. And I think having lost out his second season because of grades and seeing his friends having fun on the field, he wanted so bad to come back, and he really worked hard in the classroom. English is a second language, so I was asking, why are you struggling in school? And he's like, I have to read things 3 or 4 times because I don't understand them. At that time, we didn't have tutoring, we didn't have those kinds of things, so it was a real struggle for him. He ended up we took him to Chico State. We take all our kids to Chico State a couple times for a campus tour, and we do a camping trip out there and show kids some life outside of Oakland and get to do things that they don't get to do here. And he loved it. He loved Chico. He loved the whole deal. And I'm in construction management, and I got a construction management degree out of Chico. And, he ended up he's going to study this next semester. He's going to Chico State, and he's going to be studying construction management. He did 2 years at Laney College, a junior college in town, and worked the whole time. He's working to help his family, and he's going to school full time. And he just didn't make any time for rugby because he wanted to do this, to do the other things that he needed to do to get out. And he ended up going and getting his citizenship with no help. I just said, "You got to get it, figure it out. It's all on you. No one else is going to help you. Go get it done." And he all by himself, which blew me away because I'm sure there's adults out there that have a hard time with that.
Right.
So he did it. He did it fast. Um, I went car shopping with him. He saved $10,000 from working, and I told him he thought that he saved $10,000 for a vehicle, and I told him, no, you save $10,000 for school, but I'll let you spend $3,000 on like. I would always tell him, I'm gonna tell you everything I can. Like before you make a big decision, just ask me what my input is. Then you get to make the decision, but just let me give you some information so you can make the best decision you
Right.
can. And he's the he's even argued with me a little, respectively argued. I disagree, da da da. And then I talk a little bit more. 2 hours later, I get a text. I think I made a mistake. I want to do what you said. And then goes and does it. And then it's happy. It's just he bought a car that he didn't think he was going to want. Got a real great deal on it. It all ended up working out. The kid's just success after success after success. And I just recently got him an internship with a competitor construction company because mine was a little difficult to get him through. So I just said, I know someone who will help you out. They love him over there, and I mean, I'm so proud of him, and it's from being the runt of the pack to not playing anything like that, not making any excuses, and just busting his butt and getting it done. And if any team could have someone like that, you're going to be, if you had a bunch of those guys, you'd be extremely successful. So it's just, I look at him, I look at the success, and it's definitely changed his life. And his dad used to rag on him about that, why are you tackling a bunch of boys? And, I think, and I just said, his parents didn't even want him to go to college. His parents want him as a source of income. And I told him, I have an extra room in my house. You need to go to college. You need to make success. You need to be successful for your future family. And if you need to stay in my place, you're more than welcome. My wife was so welcoming and said, yeah, if he needs to move in, it's fine. Um, just a phenomenal kid, and very, very proud of him. And he loves rugby to death. Even if he won't play in college or whatever the case may be, he might feel like the size is an issue. He still loves it, loves watching it, always comes out and supports, comes out to community services, comes out to games. I mean, I couldn't ask for a more well-rounded, excellent kid. And I guarantee, I know for a fact that it was this program that made that difference. And
Right.
had we not had it, there's no way if he and I hadn't met and created the bond that we did, there's no way he would not be going to school right now, and he's what reminds me why I want to stay, keep doing this. And although I love it, and although it's very challenging at times, I feel like absolutely like unless I can find someone who can do it as well or better, which is I'm still looking, right? Like
Well,
just to have more assistance. But
what's
he,
funny is that I always thought that size mattered in rugby too, but the other night I was recording. I record a lot of pro games, and been watching a lot of them. The smallest guy on the team, I swear, this guy, he couldn't have been taller than 5'5" or 5'4". He was the absolute rock star of the team.
yeah,
He was the fastest guy. Nobody could catch him, and he would just squeeze through the gaps like nobody's business. And he rocked
yeah,
like a madman. And he was the hero of the team.
yeah.
Let me get your thoughts on the growth of rugby in the U.S. and also the Olympics. Your thought on that and where this country's going. RugbyNation.com is going to be international, and the purpose of it is for more people to learn about the heart of rugby and to have a one-stop hub to be able to get all the information they need and get passionate about it, and for rugby coaches like yourself to start your own blog within there and post your information about your team and everything, and also players and all that stuff. But besides that, because we do live in the U.S., the other purpose of RugbyNation.com is to help in any way possible to get the U.S. to become a tier one rugby nation that can compete in the biggest stages of the world against other top tier one teams and win.
Yeah.
Give me your opinion on the growth of U.S. rugby and also the Olympics.
Well, I noticed a lot of growth, but I feel like lacrosse is growing a lot faster than us, and just seeing, and it's such a weird thing because I think lacrosse is a typically super Caucasian sport where
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of different diversity in rugby over the years. I have one Caucasian kid on my team, um, and it's been surprising. And I don't know what the draw is to lacrosse. I've never been excited about looking to want to play that, or I don't know what the draw is to it. But
yeah, me neither.
if we could find out what that is and utilize some, maybe learn from some of the things that they're doing to continue growing our sport even faster. I think I don't know why, but a lot of people think that rugby players are crazy because of the physical contact, and some people are fearful of it. I think if you get kids into youth programs early, that goes away, because they're playing tag and then they're learning to love the sport before the contact. Um, and I don't know. I wish that it's a big effort. It takes a lot from a lot of people, but I wish that the United States could get on one page or on maybe three pages, but everybody having a very similar um, program and what they're teaching their players to an extent, in the sense that when players get to the Olympic level, they've had a very similar background in how they've been trained. I think that would assist in bringing uh, the team atmosphere closer together. I think it's very difficult with the little amount of time our players have that they spend with each other to bond before going to an international match, which I think is very important. And them being paid so they can just focus on rugby versus uh, having to have a job, 8 hours a day minimum, and then going and playing rugby, where they could train more of the day. There's things that we need to be able to compare to these other nations in their rugby. Um, I do think that there would be a great deal of if everybody. It's a it's kind of crazy because it's similar to the world, but if you could get everybody to collaborate about what works, one of the things I've requested is that in our league is that, hey, why don't you start a page about fundraising, and every team gives you opinions on how they did it, what worked, what doesn't work, so that, like, when I go to run my first crab feed, I'm not having to learn all the hard lessons of running a crab feed. Instead, I've got like a cheat sheet to it, because I'm not fighting for the same community that they are, right? I mean, if someone's in San Francisco, they don't need to be worried about me running a crab feed in Oakland, or where the
Right.
case may be. And I even offered all the things that we had done that season and what worked and what didn't, grants and all those kind of things. And I really think that we would be so better off to work with each other. There's always going to be a rivalry between teams in a sense, but if the teams can get along on that brotherly, that brotherly level where you're looking to help each other out, it's only going to grow our game so much faster. And I think if like especially high school, if they focused on being collaborative and working together and working for the benefit, if we all look at what we're really trying to create, or if everybody has the intent of creating amazing rugby players that get to play at the next level, one, for an opportunity for that player to live, to have an amazing life experience that I would love to have, that I'll never have. Um, but also to get to say that you helped the guy get to the national team. I think that if we could find what that final goal is and get everybody on the same page or a similar page to get to that goal, I think it would improve things quite a bit in the whole collaborating with each other and telling each other what works and what doesn't. Because there are some teams out there that are doing extremely well in that, and there's some teams that are doing extremely poorly in it. And we could find a medium where everybody could be doing really well with it. Um, but I'm excited. I thought, like, when I was watching the Ireland game, USA versus Ireland, watching how much the sport seemed to be growing, the way that they were marketing it. I thought that they did a great job, and I totally bought into it. Then, like a couple days later, I just kind of realized where we really are with where the growth of the sport is right now.
That
Um,
I'll tell you that game was so frustrating to me.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was just like it was as if the referee was treating the U.S. team as a high school team, trying to spoon feed them and teach them how to play the game. And
yeah,
just the game was just stopped too many times, and it was so frustrating. And I'm sure I don't know enough about rugby to understand what the referee was trying to do. But just if if somebody new to rugby in the U.S. would have watched that game, they would have walked away and never come back probably. But
yeah,
but um, there is some, and towards the end of the Tonga U.S. game, it started getting that slow again. The referee was starting to do the same type of things, but I honestly think that what's really making the sport of rugby grow so fast in the U.S. is sevens. And the
yeah,
reason being is because most Americans don't understand rugby, and it's hard to understand all the rules with 15s or 18s and stuff. But all you have to do is tell them hot potato and rugby sevens, and they get most of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And and not only that, it's hard hitting, it's fast, it's lots of scoring, and it's just exciting to watch. But I also think that more more of the six tackle rugby in the U.S. It's a lot faster and also easier for Americans to understand. That would also be another one that would help to grow the sport in the U.S. a lot faster than it is. That's just my opinion, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think the introduction of sevens is it's so quick. It's 14-minute game versus watching an 80-minute game of something you have no clue about. It's fast. I don't like sevens. I tried watching it this weekend, and I actually really like some of the USA sevens players. I've met a few of them, and there's been times where I've watched sevens like college sevens. I've enjoyed. For whatever reason, I was watching it the World Cup, and I don't know if it was just a bad day or whatever, but I wasn't really enjoying it. And it's because I've been watching so much 15s, and I love 15s, and so, but definitely to grow the sport, I think sevens is a good introduction. And then I remember the first 6 games I watched before I played, I could never figure it out. I didn't have anybody explaining it to me either, but it was just like, well, why is this? I knew the basics of the game was the score, but didn't understand everything. Even through my first 2 years, it was a struggle to understand why. Well, what is hands in the ruck, or what do you mean I can't play while I'm on the ground? All those
Yeah,
things. But it's that's why it's been neat. Here in the Bay Area, there's a few youth teams that are starting. Under eights and whatnot. And like my son, 3.5. I can't wait for him to be able to. I don't know where I'm gonna take him to go do it, but he loves watching the haka. He loves enacting the haka. He loves coming to warthog practices and games. Um, and he loves tackling and all that kind of stuff. We're gonna mellow that out for school and everything, but he loves it. And I don't know. I think it's I don't know. I'm sure it's because I love it, but there's also we watch on TV together and stuff, and it's really neat to share that with my son. And I think that there's a lot of crossover sports, and athletes good in one sport could easily cross over into rugby and be successful in rugby as well. And I think to play on that, and there's got to be some way that we show football coaches not to be afraid of rugby and not to be worried about stealing players because they're different seasons and all that kind of stuff. But I've even reached out in Oakland to football coaches to say, hey, if you have, I don't care if you give me your worst players, send them to our program. We'll make them better for next season. We'll take away some of that fear and things.
right.
And they just don't want to participate whatsoever. I mean, I'm just talking Facebook or
Yeah.
email, not a single response. And it's unfortunate because I feel like if there were some opportunities where it was vice versa, I would look. I'm looking out for the kids. I don't, care if I'm going to have the best program. Yeah, it'd be great to have the best program in the nation or something like that, but that's not the intention of what we're doing. So,
Yeah.
but I think that definitely, sevens is going to help out. It'd be great to get the Olympics. It'd be great if we are really good by then, to actually, compete for a medal. Um, but it's not, we have good tournaments and then bad tournaments, right? I mean, we were doing really well earlier in the season, and we didn't do so well this one, and um, it's just consistency as well. And I mean, I don't know what the answer is, and there's been way more experienced people doing this and working with those teams and those guys. And I know that they're working. It seems to me like they're even working harder, or they're showing us what they do now. Because uh, it's been great to see and hear about all the fitness and the nutrition that's necessary to play at that level.
Yeah.
And for our kids to understand instead of eating Cheetos before a game or something. So uh,
Well, you know what on behalf of RugbyNation.com, I want to thank you for what you're doing for those kids in Oakland, because I think, it's a labor of love what you're doing. And not only, I mean, are you going to be very blessed and very, make so many great friends and influence so many people's lives, um, but also it bleeds into your personal life, and it makes your life a lot better too, and makes it a lot happier. And some of the things that I took away from this interview from you is, I think I really like your thoughts on, somehow we've got to figure out a way that all U.S. teams can be on the same page. I really love your opinion on, also, teaching the same thing, being on the same page, um, and educating even football coaches or of rugby, and how beneficial it can be as a crossover to football as well, um, and also how we need to figure out what the heck lacrosse is doing that we need to mimic or do better, so that we can get more kids into rugby, and also get them earlier on, and then also, um, figuring out a way that the U.S. can actually get players to be paid, so that they're not having to have full-time jobs while they're training to try to compete against the world elite. And also, one of the last things that you said was, and hopefully RugbyNation.com can help in this, to figure out a way that teams can share with each other what fundraising activities work, so that you can have bigger and better programs.
yeah.
And I hope I captured those ideas well from you, and I'd like to do it as best as I can with the website to be able to accomplish those things.
Well, I think one of the biggest. There's a few things that I want to tell you that. One, it's very easy for me to fundraise because I believe so much in what I'm doing,
Right.
and I'm helping inner city kids through rugby, through youth development. It's much easier for someone who is helping inner city children versus somebody who's playing a men's sport, right? Like when I was a president for a men's club, we couldn't get, you might get a beer sponsor, right, if you're lucky, or a bar. As an Oakland, Warthogs president, I've gone after anybody and everybody, no alcohol or anything, but everything else. Um, and I don't see it as a charity. I see it as an investment, and it's an investment in the young kids in Oakland. And I think that we've proven tangible results time and time again. I only told you about one of 20 kids that I could tell you about that have had extraordinary changes in their lives. Um, but it's really, I care about the kids. I think for youth rugby and high school, I think we all care. We all know we're making a difference in any kid we coach. But I think when that's truly that's your main focus, is making the difference and assisting the kids, the rugby and stuff is so secondary, and it's so easy to come. It's just really, to me, I would hate to. There are coaches that are going to be out that are so competitive and they're all about winning, and that's the last thing to be worried about when we're trying to prepare our kids for the future and their lives and their families. Um, I think when I talk to people, when I really get into the bits and pieces of our program, I'm very passionate, and it shows. And when I get the chills and talking to somebody, I know something's happening on that side of the table.
Yeah.
I know it, I feel it, I get it. Um, the It's really about what you put in as well. My family sacrifices quite a bit for me to be able to do this. My wife takes care of my kids an awful lot without me around. I try to minimize how much practice I go to and try to get the coaches to run the program to an extent. But when it's not on the field, everything else is me. So getting the money, there's one other coach that helps with some fundraising. Everything administratively is me, and I'm not ever happy with being okay. I'm always looking at what can we improve next. Not in a way that I show that to the kids, but in a way that I want to make our program better and serve more kids and make a bigger difference. Um, and with all that said, it's like what you put in is what I get out. What you put in is what you get out. And when I got busy with work one time and I had to stop coaching, and I told the coaches, guys, I need you to take care of it. I'm so busy. There's no way I can make it to practice. And I ended up burning out on the job and having to take time off work. And I found out that it was this program and what I get out of it, that, by mentoring kids and spending time with them and being at the practice, that's what fed me to keep going. And that's what re-energized me. And taking that out of my life was not helpful. So the point I'm trying to make is what you put in is what you get out. And the more you pour your heart and soul in something, the more rewarding it is when you see a kid, go. We have a kid that lives in a dangerous neighborhood in Oakland, sleeps on a couch, and his dad's paraplegic from having a stroke. And this kid who has nothing, we sent played 1 year for us. We sent him to a elite rugby USA camp. He got noticed by Matt Sherman, was offered to go to U20 tryouts, national tryouts. Went to tryouts, but missed the first half of the first day and told me, I just do what my parents say. I explained to him how you have to explain. Why don't you share it like as if it was a college recruiting for football? And he goes, I never thought to, and said, well, that's where your mistake is. Realized the opportunity that was in front of him, made the team, won the Junior World Championship last year with the under 20s national team in Utah. All right, it was in Utah, and then they played all over the place, but they played in Utah. And then this year he went to France and played in the World Championship. We got destroyed, but that wasn't the point. The kid went to France, and like, when would this kid go to France? When would he go to Canada? When would he do anything? And I've
Well,
been having a couple.
I saw him play in Utah then, because they played Japan for the final, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was the
So
absolute most amazing game ever.
yeah,
The Japanese were playing so good, the crowd was actually cheering for both sides.
yeah,
It was such a great rugby game, and it literally came down to like the last 5 yards, and the
yeah,
U.S. pulled out. That was the most one of the most amazing games I've ever seen.
yeah. He went through that and then came back, and when he came back from that trip, I sat down and said, "What's your plan?" He's LDS, so he was like, "I want to do my mission." I said, "Do you want to do your mission before school or after school? You got to go to school." And so he chose, "I want to do it before." So we just planned out what would be left for him when he got back, how we're going to work on all that. Then he went to France, played. He went to Las Vegas, trained like crazy. Made the team again to go to France this year. Um, I just talked to him yesterday and said, "Hey, how was everything in France?" And he's like, "Man, it was something I'll never forget." And I said, "Yeah, I'm having trouble with a couple kids who don't have telephones that I'm trying to send to Cal Rugby Camp, and they're not communicating, and I'm having issues, and I just need you to handle this because just like you didn't recognize the opportunity in front of you, I need you to share that with them, and they listen to you, and I want you to have a talk." And he's like, "Anytime, anything." And the loyalty and allegiance, and it's just his gratitude that he's willing to pay it back for what we've done together to get him there. And I was just like, man, if I could have, and I have a lot of those kids. Usually they come about 2 or 3 years later, and they have that kind of gratitude. But this kid had it right away, and it's great because it just keeps everything going well, with everybody. And then you give them the opportunity to make a difference in one of their friends' lives, by them getting to have the conversation. And it's neat to see them excited to do that, and to see the other kids, because sometimes that's who it's going to take to motivate these kids. Um, but it's definitely my our program special, as special. I wish I knew that a lot of other programs were doing things very similar to us. But I know that every program's got to be helping kids in some way. But it would just be great to know that the spirit of rugby is being taught everywhere. The spirit of the social afterwards, where you're hosting, you let them eat first, you welcome them and let them sit down and eat before you eat. Those little things. I walked into a clubhouse and they were eating before us, and they were eating better food. And my captain goes, "Why are they eating, coach?" And I was like, I'm just
Yeah.
glad you know that, right? And we have nothing. Now we're from Oakland. We have absolutely nothing. And to go to these places that have everything and they act like it and it just it's one thing. It's not rugby to me, and it's never I've never seen it anywhere where people believe that that's rugby or gloating that you're the best is just unbelievable. Like when our kids are stoked about a game, I say you win like a man and you lose like a man. Like you go shake hands and you honor the people that you just played and you don't sit there and whine. I've had guys that they lose and they get all mad that they lost. They don't want to shake hands. I'm like, that's football, guys. That's not rugby. The game's over. We're friends now. We go do other things, and
Yeah.
so
I
it's
want to touch real quick on those things that you were talking about. That these are some of the core elements that I think make rugby what it is and why I'm so passionate about it is number one, for example, like the referee is to be respected and it's a gentleman's game.
yep,
And he doesn't really have to raise his voice. His voice is law and you obey it and you're respectful to him. Number two, you don't fight on the field. This is a gentleman's game. Number three, when you go to another team and you're traveling, that team is supposed to feed you, right? After the
yep.
game. As far as I remember when I played the game, after the game is over, they feed you and they also wait for you to start eating, for them to start eating as well as you said. And really the purpose of the game, no matter win or lose or whatever, is to make new friends and to become lifelong friends as rugby players. Any other tidbits you'd like to add that it actually add to that culture?
You know, one thing about so it definitely the hosting is a part of it, but uh, you are in a fraternity, and I've never been in a fraternity before except for
Right.
my sports, right? And I went to Ireland after I graduated, and long story short, was in an internet cafe. An American girl, started hitting on my buddy that was with me. She's like, "You want to go back and have some drinks at my house?" And her friend, she had an big Irish guy, and he just didn't look happy, right? And I was like, we're here to have a good time. Your buddy doesn't look very happy. I don't think he wants us there. We'll go ahead and pass, like we're fine. She said, "Oh, don't worry about him. Let's just go." So we start walking. In the first 3 minutes, I told him I play rugby. He had played for their junior national team. From then on out, we were brothers, and it was. I mean, the guy, his dad owned a pub, took me to the pub the next day. Like, you could stay at my place. And I mean, it was more than just being Irish that he was so friendly. It was the
Exactly.
rugby. It's everywhere you go, and anybody I run into, I tend to be someone who I don't like people right away. I just, I'm judgmental or whatever the case may be. But when someone says they play rugby, they like get 5 stars in my book already. It's like, okay, well now I know what we can talk about. Or now it's just, but it's incredible, and it's more so a brotherhood. And I've had um, just a tourist I didn't even know from New Zealand. We had just come back from our honeymoon. About 6 months later, the guy's walking around, plays rugby, and I'm just like, here's my card. I live on the other side of the bay. You need anything while you're here, call me. And
Exactly.
I don't know any other sport that, you could say I play soccer, the world's most popular sport, and it doesn't matter that
Right.
you play soccer, and I think what it is it's that bond that's created by going through hell of a game and doing the things like splitting an eye open, running off, getting it stitched, getting it taped up, and running back on the field because your team needs you. It's that kind of like sacrifice for each other that I think, change. Look at an NFL guy. You watch those guys take a punt return, they start to fall before the tackle. Watch rugby, they're running through the tackle, and it's something to be proud of. Um,
Or
I
watch
think,
soccer players take a flop and fake.
yeah,
Soccer flops are just crazy. Even in the NBA, they're starting to do soccer flops in the NBA, and it's
yeah,
just insane. The rugby players, that's why when I play basketball, even at the local church, I don't even feel the fouls. I get
yeah,
fouled all over the place, and it doesn't even phase me. I don't even. They're all like, "Okay, stop the ball. You just got fouled 10 times." I don't even care because I played rugby, and that's just the way we are, right?
yeah. It's I think too though it's just as important about the macho ness and the pride in being tough as it is in the respect of only the captain talks to the ref, And I've told refs, if my kids talk to you, penalize us 10 meters. Like, just start setting us back. And because I need the kids to learn to adapt too. They got to learn to adapt, and sometimes they don't get it. Like, why are we keep being penalized? It's because you keep talking. Just be quiet, and it's also to you know, get them ready for the next level in college. Like, I don't want them to be that Oakland kid that's making the problems, but yet the Oakland kid is bringing everybody together and being respectful with the other team and the referee. And um, I don't know, man. I have a lot more friends out of rugby that I played with in the very beginning of rugby, since the beginning of rugby to, now I coach, so it's not like I'm out making friends playing on teams.
Right.
But all my friends that I played rugby with are solid brothers. Like, when I go back and see them, it's like we're right on the same page, and uh, there's nothing like it. I have a few, some friends from plenty of friends from college, few friends from high school that I still talk to. But rugby, it's like I'll never want to ever stop. It's just so enjoyable to hang out with them.
A great example about what you said about rugby referees is the Ireland versus U.S. game. It was so frustrating, and all the players were so frustrated with the ref. If it would have been a soccer game, those guys would have been whining in his face, crying, yelling at him, maybe even spitting on him, maybe even trying to punch him out.
Yeah.
But the team captain, I mean, the players really had to hold it together. It's a gentleman's game, and it's got to stay that way. And we've got to teach that. And being a gentleman and being in sportsmanship in this sport is sportsmanship the way it's supposed to be.
And that's what I'm hoping more than anything is being taught in our youth rugby, and as they're getting through high school, is just no dirty punches, none of the dirty extra stuff. Just play rugby. Come out, and when you're pissed off at a guy, go out and tackle the hell out of him, but do it legally, and do it the way the game was meant. To retaliate is just to play harder. Let it feed you and drive you to motivate you to play harder, but not dirtier or not. The year that we won the championship, it was crazy the amount of amazing things that team had learned as a team. We'd gone from losing every game to winning every game. We lost one game. It was because we started picking on each other after they scored once on us. A really good team. They ended up beating us. We ended up beating them in the playoffs. It was like a Cinderella story. But what happened was, before the season had begun, we went to a preseason tournament, and we had a bunch of new kids on the team, and I forgot that I had to explain to them the whole thing about no dirty play and stuff, and like, this isn't football. And I wasn't at the tournament, but they ended up getting into, doing a lot of dirty stuff at the bottom of piles and punching and saying that it was happening to them and whatnot against them, all a Caucasian team that's really well off to do. The Caucasian team said, "Hey, we're not gonna play you. We're not gonna play you at the end of the season. And you guys, we think what you're doing, we think you're teaching your kids to do these things." And it just was like, no way have I spent 5 years to get to this point and have to shut my program down, because that's not what we're gonna do. The amazing thing is that, I told them, "Hey, that's not what happened. We're gonna go back." The amazing thing is, their president said, "Hey, why don't we do a practice together?" And I was like, what an amazing idea. Wow. Before we went over, right, I got all non-whites. They got all whites. They got a couple non-white kids, right? We get over there. Before we went over there, I talked to the kid who got a red card in the game, who was our captain. I said, "We got to go over there. This is for the program. This is for everything we've built thus far. We have to go over there. We have to apologize. We have to be, well behaved. Let's go out there and have fun. Let's compete. But let's be what." And the kid told me, "You know what, coach? I'm going to go and say sorry for the program, but I'm not going to mean it. And next time we play them, I'm going to kick the shit out of them. And we're going to, and he meant physically rugby, not the other stuff." And he said, but I'm only doing this because, and I go, why are you so upset? What is it? And he goes, "They look down on us, coach." And I go, sometimes you think you know facts, but you just think that. And not all white people look at you and have a problem about it. I go, "Look at me," and we went over there. We start playing touch. We get their early play touch. Every white kid that came on the field would just start running in and playing. Not even 6 minutes after that started, kids were high-fiving, slapping each other on the back. Like, color had disappeared from the field. It was literally a Disney movie. I was so excited to see it. The kids, both teams, practiced as hard as I've ever seen high school kids practice, because they were competing. But at the right before we had started practice, after we did some touch and stuff, my captain had come in who had never admitted that they played dirty, never admitted to me that they did that, and he said, I just want to start by apologizing for what we did. I apologize for my red card. I apologize to you guys back at the field, but I want to do it again. We played a dirty game against you, and I want you to know that it'll never happen again. And I just want to thank you guys for accepting our apology and having us out here to practice with you guys. And the other guy, the Caucasian kid got him, goes, "Hey man, what is it happened? We're moving on. But like we know we're gonna play a really hard game. We play each other because that's how we play against each other." And it was just like like I felt like these kids had grown into adults immediately, and
Right.
uh, it was such a special day. And those kids had learned. I told the kids after that, I said, if you throw a punch, I don't care if it's a retaliation. If any of us get a red card for something stupid like that, that's on purpose, we'll forfeit the next two games. And our goal that year was to win the championship. And it wasn't a goal; it was a goal set by the team on their own without talking to coaches. This is what we're going to do. And we had the commissioner of the league watching our games. They had coaches watching our games. They called the other coaches to find out how our sportsmanship was in order to make a decision to play us the last game of the season. And every coach after every game was like, I am blown away by your sportsmanship. I had a kid, my captain had bite marks in his hands. It was like, Coach, they're biting me. And I said, well, thank you for not punching them. Tell the ref, right? I was like,
Right.
just always tell the ref, right? And so I had kids like my scrum. I was like, they're hitting me at the bottom of the pile. What do I do? I said, tell your captain to tell the ref. Like, don't retaliate. And they never did. And we beat De La Salle has an amazing football program out here. They've like slaughtered everybody and all the time. And we beat their rugby team 77-0. And my kids were slapping the kids on the back, saying, "Keep your heads up. You're a good rugby team." And I was like, I thought that they could only reiterate what I said, and I
Wow.
never said things like that. And for them to get sportsmanship that year, we were known and we took pride in being the best sportsmanship team on the pitch at all times, and it was incredible to share that with those kids. And the two kids that passed away were a big part of that, and it was such a honor at their funeral to speak and to speak about that team and speak about how they were champions and like how awesome they were as a part of that team, and it was extremely special, something I'll never forget, and I only hope that it happens more often so the other kids get the. I truly that year when we were about to last week of practice, kids stopped showing up to practice on time, and it was like almost like senioritis, and I was like, man, these kids are going to lose, and they're not going to have anything great to remember about Oakland, and then they went out and did it, and it was just spectacular. We ended up playing another Oakland team, Bishop O'Dowd, a Catholic school, and they had gotten so much better over the season. It was their first year, and they made it to the championships. And so it was a very good program. And it was amazing to see these kids and see some of my kids crying after the game, like because they're so emotional about winning and how everything came together that season. That was like what it was for. I mean, that's why you want to win national championships, not
Right.
necessarily for the medal.
Yeah.
But it was definitely something special, and it was great that we got to share that with kids that are so, I didn't know what inner city meant. I didn't know. I always thought that people should be able to help themselves. And, in doing this, I've realized so many different things about the cycle of people not having the help to be able to know how to help their children
Yep.
or having, or being at work at three different jobs so they can't be there to parent their child, or, dads are gone or dads are shot or all sorts of crazy things. And this really opened my eyes, and I feel very blessed to be in the position I am and to work with these kids every day. And I wish that I wish I could do this for a living. If I wish things didn't cost money so I could do it for free, But yeah, I do it for free. But I mean, like I wish I didn't have to work and I could spend all my time focusing on this because
Right.
success that we have out of these kids and even the small ones, they just like they re-energize me and it's an adrenaline. It's a drug to see these kids succeed, and um, it's something that I absolutely love and am passionate about, and glad that I got to play a part because I feel like we're all here to do something more than just worry about ourselves and our own little thing, and to be able to actually give and to see these kids give to other people, like the effects we make on these kids can be exponential, and to see that happen it's worth more than any amount of money you could ever pay me for and all the troubles that come with the money. So
Yeah. I'm honored to have met you, and I I wish there was 10,000 more of you. But I
yeah, me
think
too.
honestly, what you're doing for the sport is great, and you'll be remembered for a long time. And I really look forward to getting getting your input and help, and just um, with rugbynation.com and helping it to grow. And I think that putting putting your ideas together here as we've discussed them right now and trying to implement them into the goal of growing the sport of rugby in the U.S. and I think it's doable. I think right now is the time.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I can't imagine it happening, but I've always been open to helping anybody out with whoever's starting a program, what worked for us, what didn't, um, to give any kind of input that's gonna. I literally want to give this game to as many people as possible. I think whether it's in the United States or in another country, it is an honor to be able to participate in this sport and to experience the amazing and unforgettable experiences I've had because of rugby and rugby alone. Um, I mean, besides getting married and having kids, my best times of my life have been on a rugby pitch, and they times hanging out with my brothers afterwards and all that, and to give this to these kids, and especially these kids that don't feel, that would rather they think they got to go to a gang because they don't really have a family. It's like we're a gang in a different way, a
Right.
gang for positivity, and I think that anything I can do to assist somebody else with either collaboration or advice or input or questions or anything, I'm so open to it. Whether it's you to help grow the sport in the country, whether it's anybody else who's really a one or two people program trying to get they're so overwhelmed and how is it that we do what we do or how do we make it work out? Anything I can do to assist others in making a difference with way more of our youth through rugby, I'm all about it. So you can feel free to share that or post up my email address at any time because I like being able to provide people with input that's going to help their program grow as well.
Thank you. Same here. And I honestly want a lot more youth to get involved and everything. One of the things that I'd love for you to add to the website is if you wouldn't mind putting together kind of like those those unwritten rules of rugby, the gentlemanly rules. I think kind of having those as like core value and statutes for what rugby is and what the heart of rugby is. I think nobody better than you would be able to actually put those together,
Well,
and and
there's
and
a there's a
I'll
some
attribute you to um, um, to being the one who wrote these rules and put them on the website.
the I got to get your email address because there's a thing down below my signature that's like the five principles of rugby
Yeah,
and the amazing things that come from it. And I got it from somewhere. I saw it on Facebook or something. I was like, man, like if I put that in everything I have and people see it, they go, "What's rugby?" And they see that and they go, "Oh man, that's something honorable." And I'll send you an email so you can even see that because that's something I don't remember who wrote it or whatnot, but it's definitely something in kind of what you're talking about right there with the rules, but just really the culture of rugby.
yeah, that's great. Well, I'm going to stop the recording right now.
Yeah.